We continue our discussion about the Thuthuka Bursary Fund, and with me, the Executive Officer of National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS. I've got Msulwa Daca with me. And Msulwa, I'm sure that you've got a personal relationship with Thuthuka Bursary Fund, not only because NSFAS is a donor, but you yourself are a chartered accountant. You know what it's like for a young, rural, black student aspiring to become a chartered accountant.
Certainly. Because I myself have come through from a rural background, studied in rural schools, and grew up and studied up to a point where I became a chartered accountant. And it is in the interest of society that we try and popularize qualification as chartered accountants for students, especially that come from rural backgrounds. And I think from where I am now professionally, it's important that we continue to support an initiative like the Thuthuka initiative to ensure that students that are interested, that come from rural backgrounds, are able to study and qualify as chartered accountants.
I suppose it's one thing to find those youngsters who are interested, but also to tell youngsters that this career option even exists. Now, when you were growing up in rural Transkei, did you know that chartered accountancy was a profession that could be pursued?
It did not exist in our radar screen. I think career guidance was one of the things that was very scarce in those days. I think things have certainly gone much, much better now. But I think it's important that students who are studying in rural schools, they realize that there is potential for them to go all the way and even qualify as chartered accountants. I think there's much more work that is being done now in career guidance and career counseling. Thuthuka is doing a bit of work in terms of popularizing the profession of chartered accountants, of chartered accountancy. In fact, for me, that stage at school, I was, more interested in science and more being in the lab than anything. But this came to me whilst I was at university, and I converted to do a BCom degree, and the rest is history.
Do you feel that you want to be able to go into not only rural areas, urban areas, I suppose, as well, but to identify young black pupils who've got a talent, an affinity with numbers, for whom chartered accountancy might be an option, to try and uncover youngsters who otherwise wouldn't know that this is a perfect fit for them?
That's the importance of the initiative by Thuthuka Bursary Fund, that it goes to schools where students might not necessarily understand what it means to be a chartered accountant. They might not know what study choices they have to make. They might not know where they are going to get assistance in many different ways. Assistance is not only about funding, I think, to get through this long marathon of qualifying as a chartered accountant. It's also about having the right role models that are able to talk and understand the language of the students and also understand where they come from. And I think certainly from a personal perspective, that's where I come from. I can talk to students, and even students in some urban schools. Some urban schools are very much disadvantaged schools themselves, and students from those schools need to be reached so that they can be informed about the existence of this profession, and also are able to take this as a career choice and take the correct subject early on at school so that they can make it in this space.
NSFAS, as a donor to Thuthuka, are you able to provide more than just the finance? Are you able to, in some way, provide mentorship or give advice at least on mentorship, which clearly is so important?
Our partnership with Thuthuka is mainly to do that, because Thuthuka as a bursary fund is able to provide mentorship, is able to provide support to students, they're able to monitor students. And we provide Thuthuka with the financial resources so that Thuthuka can be able to do that. And as from where we sit as NSFAS now, we're seeing the results. When Thuthuka publishes its pass rate, we see that they have got a much, much greater pass rate than the average student at university. And that certainly is showing to us that the Thuthuka partnership is indeed working.
When you look at yourself and you consider the kind of slog that you had to go through in order to qualify as a chartered accountant, had the Thuthuka Bursary Fund been around in your era and assisting you, how much easier, how different would your life have been as a student and on the way to qualification?
I was certainly also assisted by bursary funds. I think the NSFAS scheme was one of those that assisted me. But I think the difference with the Thuthuka program now is the support that is able to offer students when they're at university, because it's not only about financial support that makes students succeed. I think it's, understanding, the background of the students, because some of the students, they come from families where when they start getting their first degree, and for you to qualify as a chartered accountant, you need to go from a first degree and go a second degree and still do 3 years of articles, which is not really work as defined. If they come from poor families, after they get the first degree, there is a pressure and expectation that you need to start supporting, the broader family. And it's important that the families understand that they are still studying, and they are studying for a bigger goal before they actually reach there. And this is the challenge that faces students that come from disadvantaged backgrounds, is not only themselves having the will to succeed, but the society, the family and society understanding that this is what they are going through to be able to achieve their goals.
I'm sure that when you qualified as a chartered accountant, you were a bit of you were the exception rather than the rule. There were very few black chartered accountants. To what extent have you seen the profession starting to transform?
I think things have certainly improved. I think when the years when we qualified, there was still a few black chartered accountants in the profession. I think I've seen a couple of people now that are coming through the ranks that are qualifying. Thuthuka is one of those programs. There's various other programs that are trying to push the number of qualifying black accountants, and things are certainly moving in the right direction. Of course, if you look at the broader scheme of things, there's still very few chartered accountants in the country, and the shortage of the skill means that there is room for us to grow the number of black chartered accountants.
Which makes it all the more important for the Thuthuka Bursary Fund to not only succeed but to continue for a very long time.
I certainly agree. I think a scheme like this needs to be supported. We need to make sure that it succeeds and it continues to produce the result that it produces, because without a targeted initiative, we might not be able to get all the black chartered accountants through the ranks.
But I'm sure you see the NSFAS, the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, and Thuthuka as being a very natural fit, don't you?
It is. NSFAS mandate is to fund students from disadvantaged backgrounds who are performing academically, and therefore that fits in. And also NSFAS will also run Scarce Skills initiative that to make sure that we've got money set aside for students who are studying in various skills discipline, and it fits perfectly well with what we as NSFAS are trying to do.
Okay, Msulwa, well, thank you very much for joining us. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Msulwa Daca there, the Executive Officer of the National Student Financial Aid Scheme.